Thanks to Dina for that report, and joining us now with advice on how to pick the right school is parenting educator Carmen Benton. Carmen, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. Now, of course, we just watched the VT, and like we mentioned earlier, the number of private schools and the demand for private schools has increased so much in this part of the region, with so many different services being provided. But this all comes with a price, and especially when it comes down to price, parents want value for their money. And we cannot go with the conventional thinking that if a certain school is expensive, they have the highest standards. So how can we come down to, which school to enroll your child in?
There's quite a few factors, but for me the most important factor is start with your child and work out from there. Not all schools would be suitable for all children. So in a family of 4 children, it would make logistical sense to send them all to the same school, but some of those children might be really suitable to a school that's quite structured with quite a high level of academic standard. Other students, other children in the same family might be more suitable to a school that is looking more at their cultural and holistic needs, as opposed to just the focus on the academics. So that makes it a bit of a struggle for parents.
Come, what about, let's work through a couple of the other deciding factors, if you like. Ratings, as we've just seen there, are all important when it comes to school fees, when it comes to schools to choose as well. Should we be choosing our schools as per ratings as well? Or, as you're saying, should we look at it more on a child-by-child basis?
I would still say look at it on a child-by-child basis. The fact is that parents are probably choosing based on those ratings, and we know that because the schools that are getting the highest ratings are very difficult to get a place in.
Right, yeah.
So they have very long waiting lists, and that could be also because they are a very good school. Even so, a school that gets a very high rating, which would be classified as outstanding, may still not be suitable for your child.
Right.
A child that is, for example, not ready for formal learning at the age of 4 would not be suitable to go into a school where they start formal learning at 4, because then the beginning of their education experience they can start having a bit of a I can't do it, a bit of a negative attitude towards themselves.
So there's absolutely nothing wrong with shopping around, is there, when it comes to a school?
No, nothing wrong with it at all, but I think Dubai has spoken in the sense that it can be very hard to get into some of these schools.
Right.
I mean, we've got children that are being put on waiting lists while they're still in the womb almost, because the children are starting school at the age of 3. So because of that, they need to have their assessment at the age of 2. So you're really wanting to put them in as a baby on the waiting list. So
what about some of the other specific aspects, like curriculum, for example? How do we know which is the best suited curriculum for our child?
I mean, that's a really good point, because if your family is only in Dubai temporarily, and for example you're from the UK, you're going to go back to the UK system, it would make sense to keep your child in a British curriculum school. Consequently, the same for the American families, for the Indian families. If your stay here is short and you want to go home and go into that same curriculum. Another curriculum is the International Baccalaureate curriculum, which is much more of an international curriculum and also widely accepted in other national curriculum places. So the type of learning that goes on in some of these curriculums can be quite dependent on your students and your child's way of learning as well.
We've got through the door, got a kid on a waiting list. We go down to the school to have a look around the facilities as well, poke our nose around doors, check on the gyms, check on the swimming pools, etc. But what about the teachers? How do we check on them? And are we obliged, we are able to ask about the teaching staff?
I would say you are completely within your right to be assured that the teacher in front of your child is a qualified, trained teacher. And that would be within your right to ask that, because that would be a requirement. Certainly what we know is that the indicator for your child to be successful as a learner in school is the teacher. Right. So basically they could be learning almost in a cardboard box, so long as the teacher that was teaching them was completely meeting their educational needs and meeting their needs as a learner. So it's a very, very high indicator of your child's success at school.
Okay.
How would you be able to determine as a parent if that teacher is a good teacher for your child? I am actually not sure that you can, because you as a parent don't necessarily get to choose the teacher that your child gets. So what we know is, if your child does not have a good experience 2 years in a row with teachers, then it's going to start impacting on them. But actually, it's not a bad thing for a child to not have a good match for 1 year, because you can help them learn about resilience, you can help them learn about the fact that life is a little bit up and down, and hopefully it will balance out and you will find a teacher, the next teacher or the year after that.
Makes the good ones all that much better as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To a certain degree.
Now, besides the academic side of it, which is of course the most important, what about the extracurricular activities and after-school programs? Because, I mean, let's face it, some children are more inclined towards artistic activities and sports. So how important is it to look at that aspect of it?
The never-ending pickup, isn't it?
Yeah, it can definitely be the whole soccer mum thing where you've got mum driving from woe to go to woe. I think that to have a holistically well-rounded child, you would like them to do a cultural activity. In my day, it was Girl Guides and Scouts, this sort of thing. You'd like them to do a sporting pursuit, not that they're going to be the next David Beckham necessarily, but because you want them to have a go at gaining those skills and learning about team sports. And you'd like them perhaps to learn something creative or artistic, like an instrument or an art like drama or painting. This way, you're giving a child more of a well-rounded experience that they could then take into their adult life. Some schools will offer that because, as you say, Tom, you don't want to be running these kids backwards and forwards. And I would say that some parents are choosing their school based on those after-school programs because they can be quite expensive in Dubai, and in schools they can be offered as a free part of the curriculum and part of the program.
It's another cost, isn't it? It's all part of the logistics of school. Carmen, a lot to think about there, but thank you very much indeed for being with us today, and I'm sure that will be a topic of a lot of chat on our Facebook page right now, facebook.com/Studio One Live. Let us know your thoughts, post your ideas there, and also find links of how you can get in touch with Carmen. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
right,
you.
let's head over.